Hello. This week for BBIS Storytime, I thought I'd come to the forest because my story that I'm going to read to you, The Lovely Mr. T and the Horrible Schoolchildren, is set kind of in a forest, so I thought it would add to it. You might be able to hear some animals around, so hopefully they're not too loud. This story was written by one of my friends who's a teacher. It's the first story that he's written, and I think it's really amazing. It's also got some beautiful illustrations or drawings that go along with it and tell the story. So, The Lovely Mr. T and the Horrible Schoolchildren. I wonder if you know any horrible schoolchildren or any lovely teachers. Once upon a time, there was a fantastic teacher called Mr. T. That's my friend. And all of his students thought he was the loveliest man around. He was as lovely as the reddest rose in the Beauty and the Beast. Sadly, the beastly children had eaten all the books and forced Mr. T to go on a book-finding adventure. Along the way, Mr. T got a little chilly and a little scared of the dark, misty forest. I know how he feels. He was walking in. He decided to build a house out of ice cream. Mr. T went to the shop and collected the most delicious ice cream he could find. It's a good idea. If you're scared in the forest, do something that's going to make you a bit more cheerful. So he got this ice cream house. Looks pretty magnificent. I wonder if there's one around here. He built an immense skyscraper out of all sorts of different flavours. The cone was the base and meant that all the animals could not get at the ice cream on the top. It was colourful but crispy. One stormy day, the horrible children of the classroom were looking for somewhere to get out of the terrible weather. Behind a big oak tree, they saw a sight that they had never seen before. It was a massive house made of ice cream. And the horrible children wanted to devour it. They knew that the lovely Mr. T lived inside, but they did not care. They were so greedy. They banged on the door and on the side of the gigantic cone. "Lovely Mr. T! Lovely Mr. T! Let us in!" roared the horrible children at the tops of their voices. "No! No! Not by the ink in my penny pen," replied Mr. T angrily. The children quickly answered, "Then we'll munch, and we'll crunch, and we'll eat your house down." Oh dear. The horrible children ate the ice cream skyscraper all up. Lovely Mr. T got away just in time, running for his life, and there he is running for his life. Poor Mr. T. He's just so lovely. Mr. T was lost, but thankfully he came across a man with some yummy lime jelly. He had an excellent idea. Mr. T used that beautiful lime jelly to shape the most splendid house that sparkled in the setting sun. Just then, those nasty, horrible children from his classroom came out of the forest right in front of the gleaming green jelly base. Of course, they wanted to eat this house too. Oh no. They banged on the wobbly jelly door and shouted, "Mr. T! Mr. T! Let us come in!" "No! No! Not by the ink of my penny pen," Mr. T replied cautiously. "Then we'll munch and we'll crunch and we'll eat your house down," the children screamed together, beginning to take massive bites out of Mr. T's ginormous jelly house. Oh dear, poor Mr. T in there. Can you see him? Mr. T jumped out of the window and just escaped with one plate of succulent lime green jelly to eat later. Good thinking, Mr. T. Lost and all alone, Mr. T didn't know what to do. Why were these horrible children doing this to him? Suddenly, in a far corner of the forest, Mr. T came across stacks of old homework sheets. They must have been there for years. He had a marvelous idea: to build a house out of all of these homework sheets. The finished house was informative and challenging. Once again, the horrible children had followed Mr. T. They were still determined to stop him getting any more books for the classroom. They stomped in front of his house and they looked up at the door. The most energetic of the children, Hinson, slammed on the door, and the horrible children shouted in a chorus, "Mr. T! Mr. T! Let us come in!" Once again, Mr. T bellowed, "No! No! Not by the ink in my penny pen! I will not let you in!" "Then we will smash and bash and break your house down," replied the class. Strangely, all their smashing and bashing did not work. The homework house stood strong, and the children collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Sadness fell over the children. They were very disappointed that they could not destroy Mr. T's new house. Then one of the cleverest children, Desiree, had an idea. "Why don't we pour water on it?" She sounds like a schemer. But it was too late. A quiet child named Denise had already started doing the homework. Her friend Lisa saw how much fun she was having and joined in. Amazingly, within 2 minutes, all the children were doing the homework. The lovely Mr. T came outside and saw a sight that wasn't horrible at all. In fact, it was wonderful. All the children were hard at work. From that day on, Mr. T didn't need books anymore. All the knowledge was in his house. And the children from his classroom were never horrible again. They were far too busy learning. The end. And there it is. So I think that's a lovely story, and I think it's got a good message, not only for children, because I know that at BBIS our children are not horrible, but also for children doing online learning. It's a good message, isn't it? If you keep yourself busy, it's going to help you to enjoy the time. Thank you very much.